Yahweh visited me. Yahweh visited me. Like a gust of wind, His Spirit lifted me and showed me His countenance. He revealed to me tenderness, love, and infinite goodness. He then showered me with blessings and offered me manna in abundance to share it with my brothers.
Hello again, I'm Vassula Ryden. Today's subject will be on the prophecies of Russia. I've received over 20 prophecies on Russia since 1988 already. Now and then the Lord came and gave me some prophecies on Russia. The first prophecy that I received was before the fall of the communism. Actually, it was 2 years just before. Now, as we looked upon it, it was like impossible. We didn't know the time when all this will just crumble down, the communism in Russia. And it seems like as if it will never end. But then suddenly, the first prophecy I received on Russia was given by vision. A vision at the same time as when the Lord was speaking. Now, it was Jesus calling, and he says, Vassula, and he seemed to be in a very upset, if you want, manner of calling me, like he was grieved at the same time. Come and see, he called. When he said, come and see, he took me into the vision. He took my spirit into the vision to see in a metaphorical way the way he wanted to describe Russia's fall, Russia's betrayal, and Russia's turning into a communistic country and leaving her religion, which is Orthodoxy. Now, he said these words, come and see, one of your sisters is dead. Now, when the Lord gave me the name sister, I felt within me that calling Russia as a sister to me, I saw a woman. She is dead, Russia, he said. Your sister is lying dead in the desert. Now, he calls Russia his daughter. He calls Russia to me my sister. Why? Because probably I am Orthodox as well. And I saw a desert, and she was lying as a woman on the desert, holding something in her hand. I didn't see what there was in her hand, but there was some sort of fruit that she had been eating from that fruit that killed her, which was the fruit of evil communism. Now, she was still holding it in her hand, dead, but still holding it in her hand. When I heard the cry of our Lord, call Russia, your sister is dead, and he made me feel his heart of how upset he was about the whole thing, how grieved he was, plus at the same time he made me feel this special love he had for Russia. I wept. And I just couldn't stop crying, because I remember seeing this awful scene, and I really felt that she was my sister there, lying dead, helpless, in the desert, tortured herself to death by her own fault. Now Jesus came and spoke to me in terms of hope. He said, don't cry, for I shall resurrect her as I have resurrected Lazarus. And already, he said, I am near her. That was just 2 years before. I am near her heart, and I have put my hand on her heart to warm it, to revive her. And Russia will come up, he said, in his terms of speaking, and she will be the nation that will glorify me more than any other nation. Now these were very powerful words, which we waited, and then after 2 years, and I want to also share this. He went on in the prophecy, a long prophecy about Russia, in the first prophecy, and I'll take a little bit out of it here and read it out to you. But then he said, I will transfigure her as I was transfigured. Now, prophecies are always difficult to explain, and sometimes I am very reluctant in explaining the prophecy that I myself received, because we know that Jesus always speaks, not always, but many times, speaks in metaphors. And I would hate to go wrong in explaining a prophecy, and then it doesn't come the way I explained it, but in another way, and then they will say to me, hey, your prophecy didn't come true, it came in another way. And that would be my fault because I explained it wrongly. And so I just kept it as it was, but then I understood the word transfigure. I will transfigure her as I was transfigured. The communism date of the fall of the communism was the day of the feast of the transfiguration in Orthodoxy. So it was symbolic to use the word also transfigure, because in fact she was transfigured from this atheism, this forced atheism on her, into coming back into what she was before. Jesus, in that first message of Russia, described that Satan had blinded her with vanity and everything, and had made her sell all his gifts to her, all his gifts that he had given to Russia, meaning the churches. And in fact, yes, it was many of the churches were taken and transformed into publishing houses, printing houses, offices. There were no more churches there as such to be able to have the religion free. The priests were persecuted, they were hounded, they were killed, they were thrown in prison, and many of you knew that although they were there, they were hiding and practicing their religion in a secret way. So it was really torture for them. And Jesus said in that prophecy that don't worry, Russia will come back again, and she will rebuild the sanctuaries that I had offered her. And it was very interesting because I happened to be sent to Russia just then, when I was really living, I would say, the visions and the prophecy that Jesus has given me as a first prophecy on Russia. When I went to Russia, I was invited by certain priests who were open to ecumenism and about unity, and they asked me to speak in their church. So they had invited a few people, and I went among scaffolds. That means, I think I have the right word in English, ladders and paints and things that they are fixing up the church. And I went among these things to walk in the church because they were rebuilding. And they had told me, in fact, that church was a printing press. And now they are rebuilding it into what it was before, renovating the frescoes on the walls and everything like that. So everything that the Lord had said in that prophecy had come true in already 2 years' time. And I would like to share here, although I have over 20 messages, prophecies on Russia, I will just take a few lines so that you see how the Lord speaks in metaphors about Russia. But at least Russia is really, although what's going on now in Russia looks terrible, and we'll talk about this in the end of this program, let me show you what the Lord has given us here. You see, my child, he says, all heaven was too long in mourning for your sister so unloved, Russia. For years we are swallowing our bitter tears. Then he speaks directly to Russia. O Russia, mere creature of flesh, evil coiled in your very womb, creature of mere dust and ashes. I, the Most High, shall resurrect you, for I am the resurrection. I shall nurse you back to life, and I shall, with my finger upon you, transfigure you into a glorious nation as I was transfigured. You shall be majestically dressed in dazzling white robes, and all heaven shall thrust away its mourning garments, and heaven's bitter tears shall turn into joyful tears. All heaven will celebrate your resurrection, and all the martyr saints who prayed without ceasing by the feet of your Holy Mother for her intercession shall in this day too, together with my mother and her innumerable holy angels, all descend in your children's homes and make their home together with them in Russia. I then shall feed them my body and offer them my blood to drink. That means the celebration of Mass will be open and free. Russia shall eat me and drink me with great love, praising me. My Russia shall be the living example of your times and for your generations to come, because of her great conversion. Your sister, so unloved by many, shall renounce all her evil behavior and shall call me her God with all her might. And it is true, when I went to Russia, the church was packed. All the churches were packed. And you should have seen the fervency of the people coming back into the church. I mean, I had never seen for a long time such fervency. And I will tell you a little story. When I went to Russia, somebody gave me a Bible. Actually, it was the New Testament only, and it was in Russian language. And they gave me this Bible, and they said, when you go to Russia, give it to somebody there. They might want it because maybe they don't have the money even to buy, or they don't have enough Bibles. So wherever I was going in Russia, I was keeping this Bible with me for the so that I see the right person to give it to him. Now, when I went to church, and it was really packed, and we had an interpreter with us also at that moment, we looked very much like strangers and foreigners, and there was a boy there who was maybe 12 years old, about that age, who was staring at us as foreigners, and he wanted to help out. And then I smiled back to him, and he seemed, well, I was attracted to this little boy. And I thought, well, that's the new generation. And so I'm going to give this Bible to this new generation, the boy. And so I asked the interpreter to tell him that I'm going to offer him a Bible. And so I did. I gave him the Bible in his hand, and he immediately put it on his chest and, clutched it as if it was the most precious thing he was receiving. And I was thinking, it struck me. I said, look at the reaction of a 12-year-old boy, the reaction of how he appreciates the Bible being received. And I thought of our kids in Europe, if we had given them a Bible, what would be their reaction? Would they just look at it and put it aside? But if we had given him a video game in their hands, they would have perhaps done this thing, taking it and clutching it. That is the difference of what Jesus is telling us in the prophecy, that they will come with fervor back to him, even the little children. Now that little child holding the Bible, his surrounding, the old ladies that were standing there, the babushkas, had seen him. And immediately they started to tell him in an aggressive way some things in Russia, which I guessed could be like, give us the Bible, you're too young to have it, or something like that, because they were stretching their hand to take it away from him. And he was afraid. And so I told the interpreter, tell them that they should not touch that Bible from the kid's hands. It's for him. And so they respected this thing. And the boy didn't want to leave us, go. And he was trying with his way to tell the interpreter to tell me that I should come the next day again in church, because there will be still a celebration. And he wants to meet me at 11 o'clock the next day. And it was like as if, I've done the best thing in his life. It seemed to be like that. To tell you how Jesus has explained the fervency that Russia will glorify him. That boy glorified God. And then I'll continue here. Vassula, can you hear? Listen to your sister's children's laments. Her children are lamenting and there is wailing. It is my Russia's children who are weeping. All heaven plainly hears their grieving. Heaven is deeply moved by their distress, and I, who have never ceased loving her, now am near her dead body. My hand, upon her cold heart, and her bones will flower again from her tomb, and her name shall be well spoken of, for I shall adorn her and her sons and daughters. Hence, this is important, a covenant of peace and love shall be signed and sealed between me and her. I love her and always have, even in her disloyalty towards me, and even in her wickedness, I blessed her and blessed her. This shall be my glorious miracle, just wait and see. Those who have fallen asleep in hatred, hating me for no reason, those too I shall bring back to life, since they are her sons too, and still live in her womb. All these things shall soon take place. Now, we can say that we have already seen the resurrection, if you want. The resurrection is the fall of the communism, and then the churches being opened and having, a revival into their church. But the prophecies continue. And I will take the latest prophecy that I received many years back about, I'll just take a small section. Jesus says in that prophecy, which is an alarming prophecy, Russia, say it in my words now, Russia, I have given you back your baptismal name, which is Russia. As you know, Russia was not called Russia with the communism. But Jesus came back and gave her again to turn back into the old name Russia. So that was a blessing already for Russia. And Jesus said, while other Christians perhaps than the Orthodox Christians are falling into an apostasy, that means they are rebelling against his divinity and trying to eliminate Mass and eliminate the resurrection as such of Jesus, that he resurrected with the body, and becoming very rationalistic, you shepherds, Russia, will be augmenting and filling up the churches, and there will be a kind of booming, into the spiritual life of Russia. But also her sisters, he said, her sisters, which means Romania and places like which were Orthodox, would also boom, because I visited Romania, and it is true that in Romania the the monasteries were filled, were packed. We could see 500 young girls between the ages of 16 and 25 going to become nuns there and cloistered, and that was a revival in the Church of Romania. And in fact, I had seen also a vision of Romania, a church I saw, and somebody, two men, trying to put up again a very heavy cross on the roof of the church. So it was like a very big cross, and they were trying to lift it like it was taken away, and now they're putting it back. And that was really very hopeful for Romania. Now, coming back to Russia, Jesus warned Russia. He said, Russia, acknowledge me entirely. Now that was the beginning of an acknowledgement of God when the communism fell. But he said, acknowledge me entirely, because she had not yet done entirely. And I promise you on oath to exalt your descendants like stars and give them sacred vestments. But if she will pervert the liberty I have just given her, but if she will pervert the liberty I have just given her, and will put me out of her mind, even for just a while, I will allow an enemy to invade her. And the sky will turn black and will tremble, and the stars will lose their brilliance. Now this is very important, and it has come now to this. Jesus would not tolerate in Russia that just for a split moment she will just turn her eyes away and be unfaithful in her own manner, in a manner that will displease Jesus. And if she would do that, he says, if it's just for a mere moment, the sky will turn black and he will allow an enemy to invade her. And so, what we see today in Russia, it is not good. The best of the theologians, the best priests who are open for unity, and that is what Jesus wants today, unity of the church, they are being either excommunicated or killed, thrown out. This enemy, which is in Russia, it's an enemy, it is I don't know how to call it, but I will talk to you about it as with the apocalyptic words of the beast. When you read The True Life in God, Jesus calls a certain enemy the beast of the apocalypse. And there's the first beast and the second beast. And so it is through this beast, and I would like you to read the True Life in God messages to understand what we're talking about, that all this upheaval is being done in Russia. Why? To destroy the church. The enemy wants to destroy the church. The minute it starts Russia is lifting her head towards God, this enemy wants to completely destroy what good has already been done. Why? Perhaps because Russia was slightly unfaithful to Jesus for a mere second, maybe. And so Jesus says, you will go through that purification again, Russia. And it's a terrible purification, because the best of the bests in Orthodoxy in Russia are being excommunicated or thrown away from their parishes. And so there is a kind of war going on in the church in Russia, and they are even more turned against unity. They don't want to know anything about unity, because they want to have only the Orthodoxy as such. I mean, they don't want to talk about ecumenism. They are very close to that for the moment. Jesus says Russia will go through that purification, and yet Russia in the end will glorify him and will become the head of many nations. And this we are looking forward to, because we all know through these prophecies that Russia, after this purification, Jesus has promised, will glorify him anyway. But in the message, which is a lengthy message about Russia, saying that if you turn your face away for just a moment, I will let this enemy invade you and destroy you. Then you'll come back to your senses, he says, and then everything will be all right and you will glorify me. So Russia, he says, would you want to glorify me with my peace terms or by fire? And it was a question mark. And today it seems that Russia is going through fire again. But in the end, he says, you will become the head of many nations. That means not in a government way, but it means in a spiritual way. You will be an example to the others. And this is what I want to finish with. Still, Russia will be the nation that will glorify God more than any other nation. And we have to pray for Russia, and we should pray for the total conversion for Russia, and so that this enemy that is really destroying the best of the best people should just be eliminated. But that is also from God and God's grace. I bless you all, and may God keep you. Bye.